What is going on? Pochettino has left Chelsea Football Club. I didn't see it coming, to be quite honest with you, this quickly. I thought this was going to be a little bit calmer, but he has gone. Pochettino has left Chelsea Football Club by mutual consent. Oh my goodness me. We're coming, like, this is literally breaking news. So I don't know. The reaction is crazy. To this. What on earth is going on? Like, what is happening? Oh my gosh. Where do Chelsea stand now? Where on earth do Chelsea stand now? Like, people are going to be looking at Chelsea Football Club, thinking, what is going on? I think there were too many mistakes, and I think Pochettino's asking for stuff that obviously he's not able to get. This is crazy, crazy news, though. We're going to get De Zerbi, aren't we? That's what's going to happen. We're going to get De Zerbi or Kieran McKenna. What a mistake. That's worse, I think. I think that's worse. Crazy. Poch out. Literally has happened. Wow. Did not see that coming. I'm not going to lie. Just getting set up because I thought I'd just run it now. How are we doing? Dan Knight says he doesn't want McKenna anywhere near Chelsea. Look, we're going to have to take someone. I don't know what that looks like. Sorry, guys, if it's just a little bit all over the place. We're just getting started. Look, I don't know how that goes. I don't know what it looks like. Pochettino has been sacked or he's left Chelsea by mutual consent. You name it, it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Smash a like on the video. Obviously, if you were happy that Poch is now left, if it's Poch out, smash a like on the video. If you want De Zerbi, Kieran McKenna, Tuchel. Look, for me, I'll be honest, I'm Tuchel all day here. Tuchel all day. Admit your mistake. You got it wrong. You sacked the best manager the club's had in years. Admit your mistake. Realise how good he is. I think stability was better for Chelsea Football Club than sacking Pochettino. I'm saying it right now. Look, I'll be honest, yeah, I wasn't 100% sold. Yeah. Poch has been sacked, Scott. Look, I'll be honest. I don't want De Zerbi. I don't want a new young manager again because I just don't feel like that's the right approach. Surely the board have learned that sacking Tuchel was too rash. It was too fast. You have to absolutely act now and bring in someone who's experienced, who's at a level above Pochettino. You don't go back down again. You don't go McKenna. You don't go De Zerbi. You go winner. You must have sacked him because you felt like there's two reasons he's been sacked. One, because he wasn't a yes man, and he's asked for help in the transfer window that he wants experienced players, and they've said no. Or two, they felt like the squad could have done better. And that's when you have to get a better player. For me, the issue here is it's like they knew he wasn't good enough for like 30%, a third of the season, 2/3 of the season. They just wanted to give him the full chance. And the thing is, by giving him the full chance, we absolutely saw that he finally figured something out. And I think the players liked him too. I don't know what's happened. Something's happened here, like in terms of this being such a mess. They must have fallen out. They went for dinner the other day. They must have already decided. That's probably why he walked down the tunnel. It's just a mess because I think you would have been better off sacking him when things were going wrong in the middle of the season. Things have taken a turn and they've been better. That we were fourth on the form guide. Yes, there were a couple of games that weren't great, but my goodness me, I don't know. This ownership and board, for me, feels like a circus because when they should have sacked him, they didn't. When they would have had a response in the season and we could have won trophies in the FA Cup and the League Cup by bringing in a winner, they didn't. And now when things were looking up going into next season, they've gone and sacked him. What? Oh, my God. I don't know what to say in terms of the next appointment is so crucial. What if they get that wrong? This is the worst record. This is like Watford level, isn't it? Sacking managers this quickly, this abruptly. On what evidence? Chat, if you want to help me out, just tell me who you think we're going to get in. Dan Knight says the next appointment has to be right. Dale says it's a circus. So sudden. Michael says the worst decision. Like this is all over the place. This is crazy. We are a mess because when we're finally moving in the right direction under this manager, when you've acted like you're giving him time, you sack him. I think, to be honest, there are a couple of names. Look, some people are saying get Potter back. Potter's not the right answer. It's just not. For me, I'm Tuchel. If I've got to pick a favourite, I'm Tuchel out of all the managers out there. I think the fact that he's available from Bayern, there's no compensation to be paid anywhere. I think have the board realise they've made a mistake. You know, just admit that you made a mistake in sacking Tuchel. You realised how good he was. He wants to come back to Chelsea. He knows the job wasn't finished. Oh my gosh, Chelsea Football Club. This is horrific, man. Chelsea Football Club are in a bad way, I think. And I've been calling for Poch's head for most of the season because I'll be honest, I don't think it was good enough for a long, long time. When you look back at all the mistakes, there's a lot. But it seemed like he just finally learned and the players had learned. And you've got to look at it, that there are positives to take from it as well. Pochettino had Cole Palmer win Young Player of the Year. So it worked there. He had a striker who is not a top striker, is not an obviously clear goal scorer in Jackson, score 15 plus goals. He improved countless amounts of players. He made a 50, 60 million pound left back into the player that we all were hoping he'd be. He got the best out of a centre-back who was washed up on the sidelines for most of the season in Chalobah. He brought through young players. Gusto, he got the best out of him at right back. So good that we didn't even miss Reece James at times. Casado, look, he got him wrong for a lot of the season. He was isolated, the pivot between him and Enzo. He really struggled there, and I think that cost us a lot of games. Eventually, he got that right with Casado, and Casado was performing. Mudryk, I feel like Mudryk and Poch had a really good relationship. He definitely improved Mudryk. Mudryk's still questionable, but he improved him. I feel like by giving Pochettino time, we were back in it. We were back in it, right? Like that. Okay, it's not been smooth. We gave you a whole new assembly of players to gel, and we probably expected it to happen too quick as fans, and Pochettino didn't identify things that quickly. But then he'd finally learned, and we finished the season in way better form than the majority of the Premier League. It tells me that they've disagreed on something that isn't to do with the performance at the end of the season, because why didn't they just sack him during the season? What are people saying on TikTok? He's gone. Poch is gone. Poch is sacked. Yeah. People are moaning. Poch is sacked. People haven't quite understood on TikTok and on YouTube. I'm not sure. I think YouTube have kind of got the idea. TikTok, Pochettino has left Chelsea Football Club. Okay, it's done. He has left Chelsea Football Club. The team's young. Well, where do we go, mate? Where's the direction of this club? Where are we going, mate? I just don't know. I don't know. I'm so confused because if we'd have sacked him during the season for a winner, we could have had trophies this season. We could have had Champions League. They ride it out. They let him miss Champions League, but fix a lot of things and then sack him. It just does not make sense. It's just all over the place. If we'd ended in a bad way and in bad form, I would 100% get it. Yeah, look, it's all over everywhere now, obviously, that Pochettino has been sacked, dismissed. He's left by mutual consent. You name it. They probably want to name it in a polite way, but he's basically been sacked, hasn't he? Unless Pochettino's walked. If Pochettino's walked, fair play, because that means the club is in a real mess. I absolutely don't trust the sporting directors, the managers. I just don't trust these people to get it right. I just don't. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know who we're going to get. What are we saying then? De Zerbi, Tuchel, Allegri, Kieran McKenna apparently is in the running. Mourinho, like who else? Hansi Flick, Zidane. I'm trying to think of managers that are about. Klopp, Moyes, Lopetegui hasn't fully over the line. Like, what are we going to do? My favourite's Tuchel. Start letting me know in the comments who you want in as a manager. It's got to be Tuchel, right? They've got to go, we've made a mistake here. They absolutely have to. They have to. I don't know what to say. This is crazy. It's obviously happened at a time when there's all of a sudden managers available. They must have their eye on someone. I just don't know what trust to put in this club at the moment. I feel like it's a mess. I think it has to be Tuchel. I absolutely do think that. Yeah, look, Dan Knight says he doesn't trust the sporting director to find the next manager. I don't blame you. I agree. Jake Danbury's saying De Zerbi, if anyone. I mean, De Zerbi played good football. Nagelsmann's going to stay in the Germany job, I heard, for the next couple of years. I'm not sure. I don't know. I just don't know where this club's at right now. This is such a mess. I actually get it if they want to go with a young manager. I understand why, because they know that a young manager is not going to ask for experienced players. They're not going to ask for things that they would ask for if they were experienced and knew how to do the job 100%. They knew what they needed to achieve. And I think ultimately that's what Pochettino would have gone in and said. He probably said, I need some experienced players. They probably turned around and said, that's not on you. That isn't your decision. And the fact of the matter is here, and 9 times out of 10, this is an issue in football clubs, but the board have absolutely no idea of absolutely anything to do with football, not even remotely. They actually don't even refer to the sport as football as well, which is crazy. I'm lost for words. I just didn't see this coming. Like, what manager is going to look at Chelsea as an attractive prospect right now? Because there's absolutely no stability in a club that just looked like it was trying to hang on to some stability. And it looked like stability was what was working for the club. De Zerbi's going to be eyeing it up. There's no doubt about that for me. It all seems a bit funny as well, this whole Brighton link. And then De Zerbi leaves the other day as an absolute shock. And then 2 days later, Poch leaves. Now it can happen for free instead of paying money. Yeah, Poch has gone absolutely sacked, dismissed, left. You name it, that's what's happened. He has indeed. Guys, smash the likes on YouTube and on TikTok. We're obviously live right now discussing it. They pretty much broke the news, sort of perfect timing for the main news shows to come on, really, I think. So that's why, obviously, prime time, isn't it? 7 o'clock. Most people are on their phones by that point. Most people are on Twitter, on Instagram, social media. That's the idea behind it, I think. He has gone. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Who are we going to be looking at getting in? Are you shocked? Are you happy? I know there were a lot of polls recently suggesting that Pochettino's stay was way in favour now, but whereas for the majority of the season it was Poch out. I'll be honest. I think it has to be Tuchel. Anyone else isn't good enough for me, really. If it's Kieran McKenna, we might as well wish this club away under this ownership, because, like, he's literally achieved Premier League football with Ipswich. Fair play, but you cannot be hiring a Chelsea manager off of that caliber. He's obviously a really good, young, promising coach, and he could come in and do a good job because he's obviously got something to achieve what he did. But for me, there's another move in between that, like a Brighton. You know, go and prove yourself at Brighton and then see. I'm so shocked. Yeah, Poch has been sacked. Poch has either been sacked or left. I don't know what we're calling it. Mutual consent, apparently. But yeah, that's the deal. Crazy. Yeah, Chelsea have confirmed it. I think Hansi Flick, I think they're the sort of names you need to be looking at. Definitely. Um, Managers with some sort of winning pedigree is what I would look at. It's what I said all season, but you just know that's not going to happen. You just know that's not going to happen. Basically sacked as Bowley didn't want him to have opinions on players to sign. It looks like it's sort of something along those lines. Something around there is the issue. And there's obviously a reason Pochettino wasn't allowed to go around and sort of do that lap of honor as well. That's why the press guy told him to go inside, which is obvious. It's obvious, isn't it? As soon as he went down, Matt Huggett 825 is saying Hurdy left due to transfer budget being poor for next season. I'll be honest, whatever it is, I don't think the issue I have here is that we're about to have like 5 to 10 players return from injury, and he already achieved 5th, 6th sort of level form towards the end of the season with a squad without these players coming back. We finished in 6th. If Manchester City win the FA Cup, we get Europa League. At the beginning of the season, I predicted that we'd finish 5th. I would have taken that, even though I feel like Champions League could have been realistic this season had Poch not made mistakes. I feel like he'd finally learned. And then we go and sack him. What are we saying? Tuchel, De Zerbi, Hansi Flick. They're the sort of candidates that I think are going to be getting chucked around. Amorim, obviously, as well, is one where people spoke about Amorim potentially coming to Chelsea, didn't they? Or going over on the plane to West Ham. I just did not see it coming. Look, I'll be honest, Mourinho's name's going to be thrown around. What? This is it. Gio's saying, just made that connection with the squad, got them playing consistently, straight back to square one. My biggest fear is that it's going to be Kieran McKenna. That's my biggest worry. I really do think that. I just, other than that, it's crazy. Absolutely bonkers. Chelsea Football Club is a mess. I think. What does this do? What does this do for Chelsea Football Club right now? If deal was agreed with unnamed club and Brighton for De Zerbi, Ronan, don't tell me that, because you know what that means. It means that we've been in there doing business with De Zerbi, and then that's why he's left in the way that he did, and that's why Pochettino. And I'll be honest, I don't know. My instinct would be Kieran McKenna, De Zerbi. That would be my instinct with this ownership. Is that who I want? No. I'm making it quite clear now. Quite emotionally, I'd say. But I think the realistic approach for Chelsea to sustain a competitive stance is Thomas Tuchel. I really do. I really do think that. And people might call me a nostalgia merchant, but maybe the board have realised that they've gone the long way round and realised Pochettino was the best out there. That wasn't the best out there. Tuchel was. Tuchel went to Bayern Munich. It's another Champions League final. Look, it's Champions League qualification. I was looking at the financials. Chelsea literally can't afford to not get Europe, like to not get Champions League football as well. Like, it's crazy. So I just don't know really what to say. It's a bit of a mess. It's all over the place. I'm right now. People are saying Tuchel won't win you guys the Prem. Look, I'll be honest. I don't know if Tuchel would win Chelsea the Premier League. What I do know is that he'd make Chelsea competitive. He would come back only on his own terms. There's no way he's coming back. And I'm not sure how that would look for Tuchel coming back. That's the only thing. De Zerbi knows a lot of the squad, obviously, and a lot of the players that they've kind of put their money into. So, yeah, it's just a mess. Chelsea Football Club's just a mess. I think that is what is more worrying for me, is how much of a mess Chelsea Football Club is. We're all over the place. I was actually just sitting there reading through Twitter, and I literally refreshed the feed. I was thinking, I'm just going to go and cook my steak. And literally, right, I see Poch leaves by mutual consent. I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought it was a joke. The next tweet after that said exactly the same. I've got no trust in this ownership. I haven't. This appointment is so crucial for me because if this is wrong, gone. They're not coming back from it. There's too many mistakes. Look, people are saying, what about Mourinho? I wouldn't say no to Jose. Of course I wouldn't, because I think Jose wouldn't be a bad thing for this ownership, wouldn't be a bad thing for these young players, but it's an education lesson for 2 years and then the same issue again. Jose might win us something in 2 years, might turn this young squad of players into winners in Europe or something like that. But if they go with a young manager again, they might as well have kept Potter for all that time. Do you know what I mean? That is what I'm thinking here. I just don't understand. Why would you want more Brighton? I don't know. And they've arguably finished even worse than what they've done before. Jake Danbury says, De Zerbi's worked with Colwell, Caicedo, Mudryk, etc. Definitely seems like our best option now. My issue with De Zerbi is I would worry about whether or not he's a winner, whether or not he's going to come in and potentially be good enough to take Chelsea towards trophies. I wouldn't deny that he'd play good football because what I've seen at Brighton's been pretty solid. And I feel like with a better team, what could he have achieved? But the issue I have is that De Zerbi's the type of manager with no plan B. And that would worry me because when that plan A doesn't work, it embarrassingly doesn't work. And the destruction of De Zerbi's team sometimes was abysmal. It was like that Chelsea 5-0 Arsenal game a few times for Brighton this season. But at times when it worked, they popped teams off the pitch. So I'm not sure. It just all seems a bit crazy to me. De Zerbi reminds me of a bit of the Sarri element. I don't know if that makes sense to a lot of people, but Sarri was like this different style of football. It was different. It was edgy. It was the hipster choice, as people have said before, and they're saying that about De Zerbi as well. I think the difference here, and it's important to remember what Jake said over on YouTube, is that De Zerbi does know a lot of these players, has worked with a few of these players before. There's obviously a huge Brighton link at this club. And the worst thing for me is I think that's toxic. I think this Brighton link, I don't like it. I don't know. And if we get De Zerbi, look, people are going to say uncomfortable conversations, but like, what is the obsession with Brighton and Hove Albion and signing those players? I just don't get it. For me, for the fans, because ultimately you've gone against the fans here. The majority of fans were happy with. No, look, I don't disagree, right? I really, really like Sarri. I really liked Sarri, and I think Sarri achieved well. And Sarri actually played football that wasn't liked by a lot of Chelsea fans because they weren't patient enough. But Sarri played good football. And look at some of the players that Sarri had and what they've gone on to do since. Or he was a good manager for me. I feel like, yes, he was unfairly treated, but sometimes it's not just about being a good manager. It's about if you fit the club. And I don't think Sarri did, and the way he portrayed himself didn't help. De Zerbi's a little bit more spiky and not just his hair. And I feel like that isn't a bad fit, right? But if De Zerbi comes in, he absolutely has to win. Because if De Zerbi comes in and doesn't win, then I'm not sure what the point was in sacking Pochettino. You absolutely, for me, you've kind of gone youngish coach in Potter, fresh ideas, something new, changing the team every week, no clear and obvious way of playing football. It was different every week. Then you've gone, that hasn't worked. We're going to sack him. We're going to bring in Lampard, try and steady the ship. The ship didn't steady. It sunk a little bit more. Then they were like, right, let's go with Pochettino. Let's hope this is a more experienced manager. He brings us back up to where Chelsea should be in Europe. Arguably, he's done that. Did they already understand that Pochettino was only going to ever be that? Get us back into Europe. He's done it, right? We're in Europa League. Now, do they go for the winner again? If they go for a young, inexperienced manager, like a not a De Zerbi, but a little bit of a De Zerbi and below, like a McKenna, a company, and Amarim's won something. That's the one thing I'm trying to suggest here. Amarim's won something. if they go a little bit lower, less inexperienced than that, right? Then a De Zerbi, a McKenna, a Company, you chuck in the names. They're there, they're about, they're available. That feels like you've just gone back to Potter. You're taking a step backwards. You have to step forwards now, for me, and elevate this team to become winners. You have to hire a coach, manager with a winning mentality. It should have been Luis Enrique in the summer. Absolutely should have been. The fact that they literally went for Pochettino over a couple of the other managers, and then they've sacked him a summer later after he started getting results. There won't be one person in the footballing world right now but a Rio Ferdinand who isn't shocked. Rio knew. Everyone's quoting Rio saying, oh, Rio don't have a clue what he's on about. Rio's in the game. Rio knows. Someone's told him. John Terry has probably told Joe Cole. Joe Cole's told Rio. You know, it gets around. People don't keep secrets in football. Poch knew at that dinner. That's why he went for the dinner. And I think they've disagreed and it was over. Guys, TikTok are absolutely smashing the likes. 3K, thank you so much. YouTube, if we can get 30 likes on the video, I appreciate that as well. We managed to hit 2.5K subs on the YouTube channel today as well. Appreciate all the support. Obviously, Chelsea have parted ways with Mauricio Pochettino. If you didn't know already, that's the case. We're up in the air again. Another summer. Just doesn't make sense. Do you remember Tuchel, right? We gave him the summer. He got Aubameyang, the striker that he wanted. The issue was that Chelsea couldn't score goals, really, in that team. We just weren't able to convert chances. He got his striker in Aubameyang. A day and a half later, or something like that, they sacked him. Or not a day and a half later, but maybe like a week and a half later and a game and a half later or something for Aubameyang, wasn't it? It's like 40 minutes. Something ridiculous. I can't remember now. I'm not thinking exactly clearly, right? They sacked him. That meant that the new manager coming in didn't have a preseason with the players, when actually, if they were going to sack Tuchel, why didn't they just sack him in the summer? Because it's a mess. It's unorganized. Then they've arguably done something they felt was right by bringing in Potter, a young manager who was going to help develop a squad of players who were experienced and winners. Didn't work. Then they decided that they'd get rid of the manager. They brought in a manager to settle the ship in Lampard. Didn't work. Then they decided they'd get rid of the players because they were the issue. They got rid of all the players. Now they've got this squad of players that is theirs, that is Chelsea's squad, as Pochettino said, which I think was the beginning of the end, by the way. It was Chelsea's squad. It was never his. And I think that was the issue. Just Call Me Dave says, not to be funny, this club is a circus, our directors are clowns. I at this moment in time, could not agree more, Dave. I think that is the issue. I think this club is, and this is the point I'm getting to here. Then, obviously, Lampard left. We got rid of everyone in the summer because the club felt that those players were toxic and they shouldn't be there and they didn't want to be there under this ownership. And you know what? Mount, Kovacic, Havertz, Jorginho, when he left a little bit before that, Lukaku now as well is making it quite obvious he doesn't want to come back. Kante, all the players that went off to Saudi. The way Todd Boehly walked past Eden Hazard kind of makes you wonder, like, actually, no, they just know that this isn't Chelsea anymore. This is a different club. This is a mess. This is a club that's all over the place. They're impatient. And I think that is ultimately why Chelsea have parted ways with Pochettino, because they're impatient. It has to be. Don't understand the decision. I'm amazed how Poch got European football back with all the injuries that he had. And he's been okay. Who is next, says Gordon. I don't disagree. Just as Chelsea was starting to look like a serious team, says Hopkinson on Twitter, on TikTok. Asbo says Todd Boehly needs to make a statement. I completely agree. Chelsea Football Club and Todd Boehly absolutely have to be vocal about this decision, because right now they've gone against the fans. And they hired Pochettino in the summer because they felt like when they interviewed Potter, they had a good instinct from him. They hired Pochettino over the likes of Luis Enrique. Nagelsmann rejected this board. They hired Christian Vivel as a director who has a great pedigree. Absolutely did not want anything to do with Chelsea, this current Chelsea, because of how it was being run and the other two directors. He's on gardening leave. Tell me this club's not a mess. They've hired like 6, 7, 8 members of staff from Brighton. That includes coaches, players, managers, maybe more, scouts. And then when things are really bad in the season that's just happened, we could have absolutely sacked Pochettino, right? There were moments when it was so bad, he should have gone. And we didn't sack him. And a lot of Chelsea's fan base were crying out for Pochettino to be sacked. And then it looked like the board were giving him time to learn from his mistakes. Ultimately, he did. Oh, hang on a second. Chelsea have learned their lesson. They're not going to be reactionary here. Then we ultimately put together form that is arguably in the top 4 or 5 teams in the Premier League from March time, right? Maybe April, when it was really a lot of improvement in terms of results, till now, to get us European football. And then you're thinking, okay, that's the right decision. Fair enough. I was a bit hash. So a lot of us were. It's a tough job. All those injuries, all these new players, gelling it together. What do you expect? Well, the board expected Champions League football. I'm absolutely certain of it. And they expected a yes man as a manager. And they've got neither of those in Pochettino. And you know what? Fair play to him. Fair play to him. Because don't be one of those. Don't give in to people like this in football. Because these are the type of people that are killing the game. People like Todd Bowley, people like Clear Lake Capital. And you know what? I say Todd Bowley because he was the man that appointed himself chairman. But a lot of this is on Egg Barley's head. Egg Barley is the man running stuff at the moment. Egg Barley is the one who never liked Pochettino. Egg Barley better get it right. Otherwise, he's going to have egg on his face. This is crazy. Honestly, you know Stamford Bridge, right? The last game of the season, it felt a bit more normal. It felt a bit more normal. It felt a little bit post-thingy era. I don't know how to describe that unless you're really there and you'd been there previously. But before this Clear Lake era, it felt a little bit more normal. It felt like we were winning games. It felt like everything was okay. You know, not amazing, but okay. People were in good spirits. I think that's helped by the sun being out and last day of the season. And now look, we're in disarray again. No one knows what's going on at this football club. Conor Gallagher's gone now. I'll tell you that. Conor Gallagher's gone because Pochettino was his biggest fan. Chalobah will be gone. And I think because that's another thing, because Pochettino wanted those players to stay, I think they didn't like that. They don't like anyone that's saying no and standing in their way. But the thing is, and I'll tell you this right now, Pochettino knows more about football than Lawrence Stewart, knows more about football than Paul Winstanley, knows more about football than Todd Bowley, knows more than football about Wiss or whatever his name is, knows more than football about Egg Barley, knows more about football than me, than the average Chelsea fan, than the educated Chelsea fan, than a lot of managers in the Premier League right now. And they don't like that because Pochettino's gone in that room with knowledge and experience and told them what he needs to take this squad from here to the next level. And they've gone, no thanks. Don't want to hear that. We don't want that. That's not how we work. Out you go. And Poch just said, if you aren't going to change, I'm not changing. I'm gone. This is crazy. I just don't know what to say. We are all over the place. For me, it's Tuchel and no one else. Absolutely nothing else will suffice with me unless I view the manager to be on a level similar to Tuchel or a winner. You know, someone, I'm not saying exactly, but if Jose walked through the door, I'd probably hear it. Hansi Flick, I'd probably listen to it. He's walking in with trophies. Amorim, maybe. Amorim more so than De Zerbi, probably. De Zerbi's not high up on my list. De Zerbi is high up on a lot of fans' lists, and there'll be calls for De Zerbi to walk through the door. It's all a bit fishy for me, the way it's happened. The fact that he's left Brighton in the way that he did, and then Pochettino leaves in the way that he did. Chelsea need to stop acting like a mediocre club, or else our club will be losing many fans. Look, Prayas, you don't leave your club. That's just not how it works. You don't leave a football club for that reason. Look, people on TikTok are laughing at Mourinho. I'm just chucking names out there. You know, who knows how this board are gonna act, because no one saw this happening. They're turning us into a Red Bull club, young, exciting players to sell for big money. Yeah, Dave, I don't even know. I feel like the Red Bull model is, at least it's clear and evident. This model isn't. This model's all over the place. It's messy. And actually, when you look at these guys, they appear to me as messy people. You know, if I was really wealthy and I had money to go and put into a hedge fund or an investment fund, Clearlake would be one I'd be steering miles clear of. No matter how much money it could make me, I would not trust it, because they're obviously, the way they act is irrational and impatient and impulsive. And unfortunately, that isn't always the best method. It just isn't, especially when it comes to football. And sometimes I've been rash, and sometimes I've called for Poch out early, but that was because of the Spurs links, and I was probably being impatient that I could see the issues, but the fixes weren't being implemented yet. But then actually, after a little bit of time and me learning about patience, I realized that, hang on, I might have been a bit too emotional here. I might have jumped the gun a little bit. Not forgiven him yet, but he's given me evidence. What was the point in that? Because it just means nothing. They just sacked him. What are people saying then? TikTok, give me managers. What are we suggesting? YouTube, do the same. Saka Dolonga says Chelsea don't learn from their mistake. This is a huge mistake. I don't disagree. I think this could be a mistake because it's the timing of it. If you wanted to get rid of Pochettino, you do it when he's failing, when he's at his lowest. You don't do it. What have they done it out of respect because they like him? I'm kind of jumping more on the bandwagon here that Poch might have left. A little bit. That he might have left. I'm not sure. They obviously just don't fit each other, you know, and they've probably just decided that this isn't going to work. Pochettino wants one thing, the board want another. But we're one appointment away from Bowley out. I promise you, we're one appointment away. If Bowley and Clearlake get this wrong, there'll be protests, there'll be marches, there'll be no bums on seats, that type of stuff. And hitting where it hurts. People won't buy beer in the ground. Chelsea pitch owners, we own the name Chelsea. We'll do them. The fans will stand up and we'll do them out of pocket. And ultimately, the only reason they're in this game is to make money. They don't give two shits about Chelsea Football Club, hence the way they're acting. And I think that's the issue for me, is that I've got absolutely no belief. And you know what? Sometimes Roman was a bit rash. You know, maybe the first time he sacked Mourinho was a bit rash. But the issue for me there is that Roman then obviously replaced him not long afterwards with another manager who was very successful. He was always trying to go for the best of the best. You know, every time. The one time I'd say he didn't really do that and got it wrong was with Benitez, and the bloke still won us a trophy. Even after that, he still got a couple of managers. Like, I think he tried to freshen it up once with AVB, but AVB came with a pedigree. You know, he'd won stuff at Porto. The players, Frank Lampard, the John Terrys, the Drogba, they were never going to accept AVB because of the way he acted and tried to move them off of their pedestals when they'd been the players that had won Chelsea all these trophies. That was never going to work. I'm not sure, man. I'm just not sure. Who are elite managerial options, says Preyas. Look, elite's questionable. I think Tuchel's probably elite. I think Jose Mourinho is one of the elite. I think Hansi Flick is in that discussion. I think Allegri could be in that discussion. I think Zidane is obviously in that discussion. I think Klopp is in that discussion. Not that he's going to come to Chelsea, right? But he's in that discussion. I wouldn't say Lopetegui. I'm just trying to think of managers that are available and not currently sort of employed. But do you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to go and get a Klopp because Klopp isn't ever going to go to another Prem team. But when I'm talking about the pool of elite managers that are out there right now, they're just the names, right? if you're looking for a pool of elite managers, they're your names. Are we going to get them? No. This ownership, for me, aren't going anywhere near those names. They're not. This ownership are going for Kieran McKenna or De Zerbi. I'll tell you that right now. And if they don't, fair play. They prove me wrong. But what I've seen and what I know from this ownership, I absolutely know that we are 100% not looking at elite managers, because elite managers will question this ownership, right? Like Luis Enrique, like Nagelsmann, even if he's young, he's elite. I know that for a fact. They're going to question it. They're too well educated. And that's the reason I'm not sure about Tuchel and them working together, because Tuchel will not have things if they're not done in his way, unless he just thinks and he's forgotten about the bad times, right? Maybe Tuchel's gone, do you know what? My talent ID is actually awful. Why don't I give him a chance to just give me the players and let me coach? Because he said that. Simeone, I don't know if he's available. The candidates are Hoeneß from Stuttgart, Mikel from Girona, McKenna from McKenna or the Leicester manager, says Just Call Me Dave. Abdul says, owners have destroyed our club. The owners want possession. I don't give a F if we play possession or not. I want trophies, nothing more. Tuchel has to come back. Do you know what? I'm a bit like that. I'd rather success than a playing style. And I think that's why I'm not in De Zerbi's camp. I'd take a good playing style, but I'd rather our team be winners. And I think that's what Tuchel would make Chelsea. I just don't think I see it working between them. I just don't, to be honest with you. I think if you have to choose out of Kieran McKenna and De Zerbi, I think you go De Zerbi though, don't you? I don't think you go Kieran McKenna. I think that's too unproven, and I almost feel, isn't that inevitable that one day he'll be the United manager? I don't know. Who's on the odds? Do you know what? If people can tell me the odds off Sky Bet or something like that for next Chelsea manager, I'd love to know. I'm sure they're out there. Okay. Heard news yesterday that an unknown Premier League paid 4 million clause of De Zerbi. It's probably us then. Let's be real. It's us. Dan Knight says, get the sporting director out. They need to be sat first. I don't disagree. Jose's 8-1. De Zerbi favourite. It's happening, boys. It's happening, isn't it? It's going to happen. Absolutely going to happen. Oh, I'm having a breakdown here. Sorry, my throat is just dry. I can't believe it. If we get another hire from Brighton, I'm not being funny, but go and break the bank for like Unai Emery. At least the bloke's proved he can get his team to be competitive in Europe and in the Premier League. De Zerbi's Brighton team fell off. This club's a mess, man. This club's such a mess. Do you know what? Internal meeting decided it. Players are disappointed. Sam C reports. I'd back that. I actually would. Just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. Look, people are telling me the club's in tatters. This is just a mess, mate. It's just an absolute mess. I actually just don't know what to say about this, to be honest with you. Allegri's won a lot of titles. Tuchel's second favourite, is he? Interesting. Look, Bowley is an undercover Arsenal fan. I don't know if I believe that, man. I don't think he's an undercover fan of anything. I think this bloke is not a fan of football because he absolutely doesn't get it. Bowley, it might not even be Bowley. It might be Ed Barley. It might be Lawrence Stewart. It might be Whit Stanley. I'll be honest with you. When I look at them, I don't, and what they've kind of given us, there isn't a lot of praise coming from my direction. There's not. There really isn't. And you know what? Vivell was obviously instrumental in Nkunku. And he looks like a real top player and is one of the only top players that we signed. Other than that, they're all young. They've all taken a lot of time. Joe Shields is a guy I like. Why can't maybe Joe Shields is so good at the job he's doing, you don't promote him. But I'm worried. I'm worried about the directors because ultimately what it is, right, is Whit Stanley and Stewart, they are essentially Clear Lake Capital's footballing part of the brain. because Clear Lake Capital don't have a football brain and they needed to employ people that they felt understood football. And that's who they trust on decisions now. Not Vivell, by the way, who was moving in the right way. You know, interviewing Nagelsmann, wanted Nagelsmann. I'm not saying Nagelsmann's the absolute answer here, but he wanted to move in one direction. And these two want to go in a mid-table club direction. I'm telling you that much. They want to go for a young manager, give him a chance, sell players on to make profit. Why? Who knows? Are they on bonuses? Who knows? It has all look. Listen, it has all gone downhill since Tuchel's sacking. Maybe that is why. Maybe they've looked at it and gone, "We need to get him back." But I guarantee you right now, Tuchel, Stewart, and Whit Stanley, they ain't going to get on. They do not get on. I promise you that right now. Dan Knight says Ruben Amorim would be my choice. And a couple of other players are saying Allegri, a couple of other fans, saying Allegri won numerous titles. Allegri born winner. Isaac says return of Tuchel. Another European Cup. Who knows? Chelsea's peak says Poch stay. Simon Rhodes, yeah, I do, mate, but who knows? They're not gonna say that, are they? Chelsea fans, can I get your genuine opinion on this in the comments right now? TikTok, YouTube. Do you think Pochettino's been sacked and they're using mutual consent because they respect him and they like him as a man? Let me know your thoughts. Or do you think they've genuinely sat down at that dinner the other day and gone, this isn't working? Let me know your thoughts. Did they sack him? Did they sack him, or are they just being kind and saying it's mutual consent when really they don't like what's happened? He jumped before he was pushed. Exactly right. I don't disagree. Abdul says they don't have passion for the game. They only think about money. Obviously, every owner does that, but just some passion. These owners, I don't disagree. And I think we had the right blend with Roman Abramovich. You know, there was a point where Roman got a little bit too involved and he realized, hang on. This is too much. Let me step back. I've messed up a little bit here. You know, I think with Shevchenko and a couple of other players like that, he stepped back and we reap the rewards again. And I think right now, you know what it's like? You get into a sport that you haven't watched before, and then by the end of the night or by the end of the season, you think you know everything. I see it with people with boxing all the time. I see it with people with F1. They jumped into the sport. They think they're an expert. I see it with people coming into football. Who knows? Maybe Bowley, Clear Lake Capital, Egg Barley, maybe they think they know football now. You know, 2 seasons, they think that's enough. I'm sorry. It just doesn't work like that. I'm telling you right now, we are absolutely, it's all about this. People are saying they see Kieran McKenna next because he'd be easy to influence and a yes man. It's exactly like Southgate at England. It's exactly that. John Terry, 66-1. I'll tell you what, mate. If John Terry got the job, I wouldn't be moaning. I wouldn't be. Even if that is inexperience, I'd rather John Terry than Kieran McKenna. I would. Because at least he understands. He gets it. The one thing I'll say is that there is enough evidence and reasoning behind the dismissal of Pochettino. I just think it's come at the absolute wrong time. I really do, because I feel like if they'd sacked him when it was awful, we could have won trophies and got Champions League football this season. I really do think that. I really do. And that's what I just don't get. They sacked Potter at the right time. No, they sacked Potter probably a month too late, thinking about it. They could have sacked Poch way sooner. But who knows? Maybe it's for money. We just don't know, do we? Yeah, Poch is sacked. Or Poch has left. Daniel Knight says, I don't know what is Chelsea anymore. Chelsea's Chelsea. Chelsea will always be Chelsea. Unfortunately, though, it's the directors and the owners that don't get it. They don't understand what Chelsea is. They are, do you know what? Right? They'll be absolutely happy to rebrand it to like London something. I'm not even kidding you. If they walk away and they basically turn it into a new franchise, they'll be way happier. They'll be so happy that they don't have to deal with the pitch owners, that they don't have to deal with anything. Go and buy another. Go and buy Brighton. You're going to get so many of those players. Like, it's such a mess. What are they doing? Oh, what are they doing to our beautiful club, Chelsea fans? What are they doing? London Cowboys. There you go. London Cowboys, mate. It's perfect. In every sense of the word, cowboy. Perfect. Just Call Me Dave says, Kieran McKenna, Thomas Frank Vincent company to be considered as Pochettino's replacement. Right, Dave, where have you got that from? Because if that's right, I'm done. I'm done, mate. I'm absolutely done. Oh, they'll be walking around a stadium somewhere up the road going, pew, pew, pew. That's what Jacob's saying. Now, look, people saying Red Bull, I'll tell you right now, I think it's an offense to the Red Bull model. The Red Bull model, as much as people don't like it, is a very, very efficiently run footballing idea and system that works. It's smooth. It works really, really well. They use coaches from here to the next place, to the next place, to the next place. Brighton is almost like they're like the team that they've got before Strasbourg, if that makes sense. It's like Brighton are unofficially part of Blueco. And I guarantee Tony Bloom is not an uneducated guy. I guarantee he's making some sort of beneficial, or he's got some sort of beneficial arrangement here. Maybe he doesn't. And maybe he's just reaping the rewards of idiots buying his talent for a lot of money. I don't know. I've got to be careful what I say, obviously, but this is a mess. Thiago Silva come back already as manager. I don't know, man. I just don't know. Here we go. Right, here we go. Abdul's sending in a link right now. New managers likely to be considered are Sebastian Hoeneß, Michel, Kieran McKenna, Enzo Maresca. This is not even mid-table managers. This is relegation type of managers. It's not entirely true in terms of what those managers have done, because Stuttgart have got Champions League football in Germany. I'm not going to sit here and say I know all of what those managers have achieved. Kieran McKenna, obviously back-to-back promotions. That isn't enough for me to go and get a Europa League job, though. You know, Dominic says, bro, these owners just like, yes, I do, coaches. Yeah, what? Just like, sorry, Dominic. I don't know if I can, if you rewrite that, I might be able to pronounce it a bit better. None of them are good enough, says John. Lee Oxley's saying De Zerbi will be finishing mid-table. Maybe that's the idea. Go offer Alonso what he wants. Would you take Southgate? Tony Kroos retiring? I'm sick and tired of us using the Brighton template. We copy their play styles and poach their talent. Amarim. He isn't sacked, though. He left. Look, we don't know. They're saying it's mutual consent, but for me, I'm not sure. I really don't know. One day we will. One day we will absolutely know. Because I'll tell you one thing, Pochettino isn't afraid to do an interview. And I think what it tells me is that the last couple of weeks, Poch hasn't been happy. As soon as he sat down with Gary from Sky Sports and said that I could leave because me and my coaching staff aren't happy, I knew something was up. Something wasn't right, because a manager doesn't sort of start engineering an exit like that unless they want out. That's classic Conte, classic Mourinho. Conte's available, by the way. That sort of style. They want out. They're trying to get their payday. Maybe that's what Pochettino has done. I'm not sure. The difference is, though, he then instead of just saying it once in a press conference, he then did that interview, and then he said something else, saying that this isn't my team, this is Chelsea's team. And all of a sudden, it's like he's not happy. So maybe he's left. Maybe he's left. I think you're not wrong. What did you say your name was? Kada, maybe? Saying he's going to go Man United. I don't think you're wrong. I genuinely wouldn't be shocked if Pochettino went Man United or Bayern Munich. Would not be shocked. Wouldn't be shocked. And you know what? If he does, all the best to him, because I feel like he's actually been treated like a bit of a mug now, potentially. We're not sure. We don't know what's happened. I just think if he got sacked when results weren't going right, fair enough. He didn't get enough time, but also you were failing and making a lot of mistakes. the issue for me now is that we're actually arguably at the best point that we've been at all season. We finished with 5 green dots on the form table. We were playing good football. We've lost once against Arsenal, once against City, and in the League Cup against Liverpool. City was obviously FA Cup. But it just feels like we're back to square one. It's like, again, this season. I don't mind it. It's easy content, do you know what I mean? But as a fan, it's like, what? We're back to square one. You know what I mean? At least I can sit here and we can talk about managers. I literally just released my video talking about the end of the season, saying I've got a funny feeling it's going to be a discussion about managers and a lot of players outgoing this season or this summer. I've jinxed it. It's happened. I probably uploaded that at 1 o'clock. By 8 o'clock, it's happened. Just call me Dave. I would not ask those candidates to manage drink up in a brewery. I agree. People are saying we could be back to square one. Do I think he should have been sacked or should he have left? Yeah, at a point in this season, yes, I absolutely do. I really did. I think it was awful. I was Poch out for a long time, and I wouldn't have said I was ever Poch in. But what I will say is I probably learned a lesson this season that actually patience can be a virtue. And with a little bit of patience and time, things started to click. And I didn't think the right thing was to create instability again. And that's what we've done. I think that's the biggest issue for me. If you'd have asked me in December, I absolutely would have said, Poch out, get him gone. I've said it a number of times. I said it after Wembley as well. And I don't mind it in a sense. The way it's happened, though, tells me that the board aren't going for, they're not going for a top manager. They're going for a youthful manager. Isaac's here, and he's going to jump in as well on the YouTube. He's obviously got a couple of things to say as well. So obviously, if you want to hear what Isaac's got to say, jump in over on the YouTube as well. Isaac, how we doing, mate?
I'm fuming, bro.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just you might want to move your mic a bit closer, mate. You're a little bit quiet.
How's that?
Yeah, that's a little bit better. Yeah. Not happy?
Bro, this is mad. This is actually mad. I just do not understand anymore. And listen, mate, I was listening to you as well before I jumped on, obviously just getting things ready and that. But like you said, if this was going to happen, why did this not happen in January? Before the cup final, before the European chase, you know, and just when he's getting better, he's gone.
Yeah. I hear you, mate. I hear you completely.
I have to say, firstly, though, I know you asked about sacking or whatever, but I think he doesn't want to be here.
Right. I definitely think there could be an element of that. I definitely do.
Yeah. I genuinely think, I'm just going to go sideways, Dan. Hopefully
sweet.
Hopefully you can hear me a bit better now as well.
Boys, we are live on my YouTube channel. If you can't hear Isaac completely, the full conversation is on the YouTube channel right now. Obviously, TikTok, I'll leave it on loud so you can hear a bit of it as well. But we're just obviously, if you're not aware, because there's a couple of people saying in the TikTok comments right now, we're just going to start a conversation on it, me and Isaac. But Pochettino has left Chelsea Football Club by mutual consent. Whether or not he's left or he's been sacked, no one's quite sure. Let us know your thoughts. Who's going to be joining Chelsea Football Club as the new manager? Make sure to smash a like on TikTok and on YouTube. Follow or subscribe. We are on the road to 3,000 on both platforms. Let me know your thoughts. Isaac, obviously you were just saying you're not happy with the situation, how this has been handled. Just recap on the point you were just saying, because a couple of people said, well said.
Yeah, mate, why did this not happen in January? But I have to say, and as I was saying, I think what's important here is that I don't think he's got sacked. I genuinely don't think he's been sacked. I don't think the club are over the moon with him and the season and how it's gone. Especially, you know, I'm sure in January he became very, very close to going. But I do believe that he doesn't want to be here. I think we've seen it a lot in recent games. He's never really built that relationship with the fans anyway. We know that. And I guess that comes from, one, the results, But it's not just about the results; it's about the performances as well. I remember when we had Sarri and we were getting results, but the performances were just dead. And so, like, no one was really on his side. And when he went, no one really cared because it was just like, yeah, all right, mate. You know, I know we won a European trophy, and I think we came third in the league that year, but it was just boring. And I think it's a similar situation where I don't think the fans are too gutted. And do you know what? I'm not even gutted that he's gone. Like, I was thinking this earlier when I read it. I was like, I'm not gutted.
Yeah, I
If
hear
you'd
you
have
on
asked
that.
me 3 months ago, I'd probably been like, yeah, you know, I backed
Yeah,
you know me,
you
Dan. I
backed him and
backed
I
him for
didn't. Yeah.
time. And I said he needs time and he's something next time. I did get to a point where I was kind of like, you know what, I'm neither here nor there. He can either stay or he can go. And I'm not bothered that he's gone. What I'm vexed about is these rumours that I'm hearing about his replacement. And you know, if it's De Zerbi, bro, oh, I just don't know where to go after that.
Yeah.
Because why are we signing we might as well sign Potter again, bro, and
Yeah,
bring
yeah.
him
I
back to
hear
see if he
you.
can
I
have
hear
another
you on
go.
that. Like I was saying, I don't know if you caught it, but I was saying if you sack Pochettino, everyone said if Pochettino comes in, he takes us back to European football, right?
Yeah,
Stables the ship that is very unsteady. Then you
yeah,
go to an elite manager. If we go back to a De Zerbi, McKenna, all these other names that are unknowns in terms of winning stuff, you've got it wrong. You
yeah.
have to go for me, and I said this before Poch, but I understood why Poch was like a stepping stone. I think it's happened quicker than I ever thought it was going to if things worked out. Ultimately, getting Europa League feels like an okay achievement for me with gelling a new squad together that's young, never played, and then maybe give him one more season and then go elite. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're probably impatient. You have to go elite now. For me, you don't go backwards. You don't go backwards. Otherwise, isn't that the definition of madness? Trying the same thing over again, expecting different
Yeah.
results. And I think what you're saying, right, is absolutely true that you're not sad that he's gone because ultimately he kind of let us down an awful lot this season and made a lot of mistakes. I know you were probably a bit more Pochin than I was throughout the season, but ultimately the issue here is how it's been handled by Clearlake and the ownership, isn't it? It's just such a mess.
It is, mate. It really is. And look, I hope I eat my words when we're talking about this now, and I hope they go and do something mad and bring in, you know, someone unbelievable. But really, I don't know who that is right now because I don't know who's available.
Yeah.
But I don't know who it is, mate. And I've got the table up here, right? And this is just I'm just going to say this just because I just want to touch on this other thing. I don't want to cuss too hard in case he comes in and he does all right. And do you know what? He probably would. He'd probably do okay. But I just want to put something into perspective here, right? Poch, we all know Poch was doing dead when it was around Christmas time, right?
Yeah.
We already saw it. 19 games, we had 25 points. We were sat in 11th. After 38 games, we reached top six for European football. You know, the turnaround was decent to say the least, and there was definitely improvement from players. We can say that a few players played in a few different positions and found themselves much more comfortable when players like Nico Jackson suddenly started scoring goals and not missing them. Players like Noni Madueke, Cole Palmer just carried on going the way he was going all season. But just to put this into perspective, right? Our last 5 games of the season were all wins.
Yeah.
3, 6, 9, 12, 15 points in 5 games. Do you know what Brighton's was? Loss, loss, draw, win, loss. 4 points in their last 5 games. And the same thing happened with Potter, mate. He started off well, and because Brighton are sitting around mid-table, they're like, oh, what a job he's done, what a job he's done. He's done a job that's expected of a mid-table manager. And if you bring him in, then we're going to be a mid-table club again. And we'll finish 11th like we did last season when we finished with Frank after we had Potter and whoever else. And that's what happened to us again, mate. I guarantee it. And some of these players who, you know, with the big names and the big futures, apparently, they ain't going to be here much longer, mate. How can you have like someone like Cole Palmer who's turned our season around? Imagine we bring in some dead guy and we end up finished mid-table again. This guy's on a plane. He's going to Real Madrid. Or he's going getting in his motor and he's driving back up to Manchester because
and they think they can hold these players there because of the contracts that they've got. But we're in the sort of situation that we were when Tuchel was sacked, with the playing staff that liked him. Mason Mount, Kovacic, Kante, Reece James, all these people loved Tuchel. Yeah. Then they brought in Potter. There was instant disrespect because he wasn't at the level. Now, if Pochettino, these players like him and they're unhappy, if Pochettino goes, now that one, they are aware that bad football gets a manager sacked. And two, they are also aware that the next person that comes in, if he isn't as good as Pochettino or he isn't as nice as Pochettino, they're going to rebel. Right. Yeah. And this is where if Clear Lake wanted to change it up and completely transform the Chelsea model, they had to back a manager and give him a bit of time, unless they go instantly elite from the get-go. But the real thing for me, and we all have to remember this, is as much as Pochettino did finish strongly, it took 2 to 3/3 of the season, or 3/4 of a 4-quarter season, if you like, for him to even start learning. Because what was he doing? Like, the fact of the matter is, we could have had Champions League football and trophies this season if they'd made this decision at the right time. Do you agree?
Yes and no, actually. With most of what you just said, yes, I completely agree, mate. I couldn't agree more. I feel like you're right in that it took 2/3 of a season for us to figure it out. That is true. However, I suppose the counter argument to that is, at least he did figure it out. And if he stayed, would he have continued to figure it out? And maybe all this time when people were saying, give him time, we would have started seeing more results, and we would have made Champions League spots, or we would have, won a decent trophy next year, maybe even been title contenders. Who knows? Was we on a ladder and a pathway to that? Maybe, because the last few results suggest that we were. We battled from 11th back up to 6th. We put some big performances in there against Spurs, Villa, who else? Newcastle. A couple of games when it looked like the game was dead and buried. The Man United game. Bro, The turnaround was unbelievable. And we got European football, which we never, ever thought we would get achieved.
And they were like, some of them were ugly sort of wins when they had to be, right?
Them. You need them wins and
I agree.
Character.
And ugly wins build confidence that allows you to play better football. That's the thing. That 100% does. And I think even Arsenal learned that this season, hence why they were able to compete with City to the final day. I think this Chelsea side, as kids, probably weren't aware of that and were learning it in the very final part of the season. And Pochettino was learning what was working with these kids, how to motivate them, how to make them better footballers, right? How to get his message across finally. It took him a long time, but finally. I think the issue is it doesn't help when someone like Glasner gets the job in South London at Crystal Palace and goes bang and drops 6-7 wins in a row and is getting the absolute best out of so many players. That's a worry I have. But I just think
I would understand this if an opportunity presented itself and that, we all knew where this was going. Let's say, for example, Xabi Alonso. Let's say this guy turned around and went, I want to go and manage Chelsea. I don't want to be anywhere else. I don't want to stay here. I want to go and manage Chelsea. You got to sack Poch and I'll come there. And we sacked Poch, or we mutually agreed that he was going to leave, wherever. Yeah. Then I would understand it. But I'm just sitting here thinking, do they know who's coming back?
Yeah, they do.
Do they know who's going to replace? Or is this going to be a case of, let's see how the summer goes. Let's see if there's any decent managers in the Euros that are looking for a new move. Let's look at, who knows, Because right now, there is no one that screams, I'm available and I'm ready. And as much as
there's one.
Go on.
It's De Zerbi. He's almost, because of the way it was, he's left Brighton, shockingly. No one expected him to leave in that way. And then all of a sudden, the door opens at Chelsea. Yeah. So that's the thing, isn't it? It's like De Zerbi is... Huh?
It's exactly the same story as Potter.
Yeah,
Potter had that season, and then he left Brighton to come to Chelsea.
Yeah. Well,
I reckon De Zerbi's been tapped up back in January when things were going south, one of the owners have gone to him and gone, "How do you fancy coming to Chelsea?" He's gone, "Yeah, I'll take it. How much are you going to pay me?" They'll probably go, "Look, let's see the season out. We'll mutually get rid of Poch. We'll pay him a little bit of money, and then you come in." That's what they've done.
Yeah.
But now, yeah, I think, serious consideration needs to be had about who I would. I know, I wrote in the comments, and I don't know. Maybe I'm being ridiculous here, but I would 100% take back Poch. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what though? I would. I actually would take back Poch rather than this mess, and that's what I felt like was happening. We were back in stability over instability, which has caused us issues under this ownership. Right? It's just been so unstable and mentally challenging to keep up with. And now we've gone, do you know what? We'll have another summer of it. I feel like they like the hecticness of the summer. You know what, Toboli? Enjoy your holiday, mate, and just keep Poch in the job. And then if it doesn't start very well, get to work in the business of the season. But there was no evidence for me in the final game weeks that suggested this decision was coming. This decision didn't come at the time when it needs to happen.
Do you think they've had this mutual agreement because they didn't want to sack him and have to pay him out of his contract?
Oh, he's getting paid. I think they just I think, and I'll be honest, right? And it's the one thing I felt like when I watched him in press conferences and things like that. I think he's just genuinely a really nice guy. I think he might be too nice.
Because a point to make, actually, and we can talk about the results and everything. And you and I have said this before. At no point throughout the season, not a single point, did I ever see a player in the team look like they were vexed at Poch.
Yeah.
Not even slightly. I've never seen anyone, and I know sometimes they look a bit peed off when they get subbed off, whatever. But no one is like where they've not made eye contact, or he's gone to shake his hand but not really touched him, or anything's come out about stuff that's happened in training. Everyone looks as if they were quite happy with Poch. Maybe that's because he does come across like a bit of a pushover. Maybe they think, oh, we can get away with what we want. And maybe that's why we've seen some of the attitudes that we have amongst players and the kind of arrogance amongst some of them. Maybe that's why, because he's too soft.
Yeah.
But none of them have had any issues with him.
I agree. And I think that ultimately this is the most yellow cards we've ever had in a season. And I think the fact that he wasn't harsh enough to some of these players suggests to me that they took that for granted, lacked respect in him, and ultimately it created a poor discipline at Chelsea Football Club. I think we saw that at Spurs as well. And we've seen that around with Pochettino. And I genuinely think he's just a really nice guy. And sometimes the best managers aren't the nicest people in the world because they're not, like if you go to work, sometimes you just don't like your boss. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. You just don't like your boss, but you get on with what you've got to do and you respect what he's asking you to do. Yeah. I think they viewed Poch as a mate. He was the one chucking a barbecue for him. Like, he was a friendly kind of boss. And I feel like at a club like Spurs, that approach really works. And even with a young group of players, I think that approach really works. And I think genuinely, this is a polite sacking or a polite exit from Pochettino's side of things. Because don't forget, Pochettino might not have been happy, but did he think a sacking was coming? And like a lot of people have said, he jumped before he was pushed. I want to bring up this point quickly from Connor. Connor says, think about this. Poch had a meeting with Bowley on Friday. We're all aware of that. He went for dinner. De Zerbi then announced on Saturday that he was leaving Brighton, and Brighton announced it, obviously, without even like Fabrizio Romano knowing as well. And then obviously, the news has broke today, obviously, that Pochettino's leaving as well. I'm not exactly sure who broke the news today, but it might have been like Matt Law or something like that, which slightly concerns me if it is, because I'm not sure how I feel about this exclusive journalist leaking thing going on nowadays. Why don't the club just put up a statement like Brighton did yesterday? Because I don't think Chelsea put the statement up first before.
They definitely didn't, mate.
They didn't.
Do you know how I found out? It was in a WhatsApp group. I just came out of the gym, see it in a WhatsApp group. It wasn't even top on the Daily Mail of Sport. It was about the fourth one down.
Yeah, no.
Then I go on the Chelsea Instagram page. nothing. And then about 5-10 minutes later, I get a notification on the Chelsea app saying that they've announced a club statement. And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, right, you're about an hour too late, guys.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't like that approach. That means that they've got a journalist potentially on the payroll or been given exclusivity rights to break the news first, which for me just shows that like this isn't right. This isn't the right way to do things. And I prefer the way that Brighton announced De Zerbi almost in secret that no one knew, and it shocked the world. The one thing I will say though, how nice is it to get shocking football news again where Fabrizio Romano isn't telling us like 3-4 weeks in advance? The last thing I was reading about Pochettino under Fabrizio Romano was that they were potentially looking at it at the end of the season. But other than that, it was okay because of how it had finished. Little did he know something was wrong. And the other issue may just be that Pochettino and his coaching staff were just not happy. You know, they might just not be happy. And this is where I really want to speak about it, because I think this is what a lot of people are saying on TikTok and on YouTube as well, is that this isn't a financial thing for Pochettino. This is a pride thing, and this is a big, massive red flag for how Chelsea Football Club is being run at the moment, because this is a manager who isn't even top level, and he's like, this club's a mess. This club isn't right. I need to leave because this is going to hinder me and my image as a manager. And that's the thing. I know I've said Poch has been potentially sacked, but also there's a massive potential here that he's left, and Clearlake Capital are now actually haven't got a clue who they want. They're in the mud again, and they're like, we've effed this one up, haven't we, guys? Because we actually quite like this Pochettino guy, and we wanted to back him, but then ultimately, when they've disagreed on something, both are being stubborn. They probably couldn't meet in the middle, and they've basically announced a split, all right, pretty much. I don't know what you think, guys. Do you think there's a potential here that Pochettino just decided to go, this isn't right for us, this club's a bit of a mess, we need to leave? Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, I mean, whether it came down to the fact that the club is a mess or not, I don't know, because I feel like part of the mess is he's partly to blame. So I think it's a bit rich for him to say the club's a mess when I think he had some.
Well, I don't think look, let's first things first. He definitely hasn't come out and said that, but he said that maybe his coaching staff aren't happy. There must be a reason for that. The one
there was that interview he had not long ago. I can't remember what game it was, and he came out and they were sort of saying it's a bit weird. I think, to be fair, to give him credit, I think some of that was maybe like a language barrier.
Yeah,
but
a little bit.
It did suggest like he was sort of saying, I don't care if they don't want me here. They know they can get rid of me.
Yeah.
You know,
but what if I leave was what he said.
I want to stay here. I want to stay at this club. I love this club. I want to work with these players. I want to win trophies. I want this club to become great again. Da 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 da. He never said any of that. And I think there's a strong thing that we've never ever once seen him in any way kind of bond with the fans. He's definitely.
And don't forget, at the Brentford game, like the fans were telling him to F off. And there's been a lot of times this season when it's clear that his affinity with Tottenham is stronger than it would ever be at Chelsea. And he didn't help himself from the get-go with the fans. I think that was the biggest mistake Pochettino made. If he come in here and was like, do you know what? Yes, I've had a good relationship with the Tottenham fans over the road and the club, but I'm Chelsea all the way now. Like, we're going to build a real relationship. I'm not going to start smacking the badge straight away, but I'm going to celebrate every goal like it means the world to me, because it does, because I want to achieve. And he didn't do that. He didn't say anything. And then when we got Tottenham earlier on in the season, he ultimately, although, look, he did the double over them, he was like, it was almost like a bit like, like Unai Emery did the double over Arsenal to just be a bit bitter about him being sacked by them. And Poch has almost done the same about Tottenham. What if Poch is going back to Spurs and they sack hands? Who knows, mate?
That was literally the next thing I was going to say. I was like, maybe we're missing something here. We think all of this is about Chelsea. Maybe he's had whoever on the blower saying, look, mate, if we've seen what you've done these last few weeks at Chelsea, if we get rid of Ange, would you contemplate coming back? And
Yeah,
he's
this
gone,
is
yep,
it.
that's me, done. See you later, boys.
And do you know what? If we were in the same boat and our owners were making that phone call to Tuchel right now saying, look, I'll be honest, Friday night, we didn't see Poch leaving. He's left, obviously. I think, actually, I'll be honest, I think Friday night was the ultimate decision. And the way he walked down the tunnel and the way he was really sort of absent that last game of the season at the Bridge, I feel like that was it. And he probably felt like he didn't want to say bye to the Chelsea fans because ultimately we never really even said hello to each other, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like the relationship was never really built between us, but ultimately I think it had just got to that first point where actually he got something, and he was right that you don't celebrate that, but then next season, if he'd have carried on in the manner that he was, I could see a relationship starting to potentially form. You know how he reacted after the United game? It was like, oh, hang on a minute. That's real. That right there is real. But it was the thing, people didn't like the fact that he didn't get up out of his chair and he was very static and he was always negative, and the mistakes he made and the way he spoke about Spurs. It's just a recipe for disaster. Connor's made another good point. Guys, if you want to get your comment highlighted and come and have a chat, it's over on the YouTube channel right now, people from TikTok. I know some people just like enjoying the conversation over on TikTok as well. Make sure to smash the likes. Connor said, the owners never came out and publicly backed Poch, just back the project. Don't get me wrong, I'm still not convinced by Poch. However, I would rather have him than De Zerbi.
Yeah, I completely agree.
On that, eyes, yeah, agree.
Mate, I think he's spot on, and that's exactly kind of where we're standing with it. Like I said, I'm not gutted that Poch has gone. I'm gutted that the timing. I don't get why they've done it now, unless he's walked, in which case fair enough to him. If that's the decision he's made, then fair play. I just don't get it, and what I really, really hope is just that if Poch has walked, we don't just go and sign De Zerbi because he's done all right at Brighton. All right is being generous, I think. He's had some decent performances, but they've also had some woeful performances, and he's showed real inexperience. He is not the man for this club. He 100% is not the man for this club. And if we sign him and bring him in, I guarantee you next season will be just as bad, if not worse, than our Potter
Clip it.
season.
Clip it. Hold the receipt, boys. Hold the receipt.
Yeah. And do you know what, yeah? If people want to at me after this, if he comes in and wins us a European trophy or something, I'll take it, bruv. All day long, I will sit there and say, do you know what? Hands up, I was wrong. But I'm telling you, we've seen it all before, bruv. How many times have we seen the same story? Bring someone in who knows how to win. That's what we want. That's what Chelsea is. And we always go on and on and on about this whole proper Chelsea thing. And other fans for other clubs think that we're just talking about nonsense. But it is a thing. There is such thing as proper Chelsea. John Terry is proper Chelsea. Thiago Silva is proper Chelsea. And you've got snakes like Mason Mount and Kai Havertz who pretend to be proper Chelsea when they're there, but then they'll go and take the next best offer that comes along. Yeah. We need someone like Tuchel was, bro. He walked through the door and we were like, this guy is on it.
They just get it, mate. They just understand from the get-go, don't they? As Piliqueta of the world, players like that, they just absolutely get the message. Someone like, even like Trevor Chalobah, Conor Gallagher, they just, even Dazassi, these sort of players just get it. They're winners, but they love the club as well, and they want the club to succeed. I'll be honest, I think the most shocked people are going to be the players. I think the players are going to be shocked, maybe more than the fans here. They probably would have known before us. Connor Hendry asked a question that I want to know from everyone. Who's going to be your number one manager? Who do you want to see? Look, the thing is, right, is that De Zerbi as a character, I think suits Chelsea a little bit more than Pochettino. I think I say it in a phrase that he's spiky, and I don't mean because of his hair. And I know it's such an easy thing to suggest. I know Johnny Minerals said he was the fake Wolverine or something like that, right? And I do get the jokes and whatever, but that type of character has had success at Chelsea before. Jose Mourinho, Conte, we know that can work. And I rate that side of him. I definitely do. And I also rate the style of football that he plays. However, the issue I've got is if we were hiring De Zerbi from Brighton that had just won an FA Cup and a League Cup, or, you know, hadn't been hammered by Roma by an excessive amount of goals and turned over a number of times in the Premier League when his plan A stopped working, then I'd be okay with it. But we aren't. We're hiring him when all of that is true. And then I'm like, I'm not sure. And obviously I'm jumping the gun a bit here, but if you calm down a bit and you start reading between the lines, and if you look at the evidence that this board has kind of shown us in the short time that they've ran the football club, everything is moving in the direction of the return of De Zerbi, isn't it? It just absolutely is. MB7 says Chelsea DNA is dead. This ownership has killed it. Liam says need a born winner, one who knows and loves how to win, someone who has a CV full of trophies. I think he absolutely hits the nail on the head there, Liam. He's absolutely bang on.
But wait, who's got a CV full of trophies that's available right now?
Well,
I agree.
List, right? If you want to do this list, right, it gets a bit silly because some of these are so far off of what Chelsea are going to be able to attract. But if we start, we go Jose Mourinho, Conte, Tuchel, all former managers of the club, all stacks of trophies available. Then you'd say from the Premier League, Jurgen Klopp obviously has trophies available, but never going to go back to another Premier League team. You've got Zidane, you've got Allegri, you've got the guy from AC Milan. I think he might have won a league title for them. You've got chat, help me out here, but there's quite a few. I'm having a bit of mind blank here. We've gone over this. Hansi Flick.
Hansi Flick, he's like 10-1.
So there's a few on that list, right? Luis Enrique. People are saying Luis Enrique, but as far as I'm aware, Luis Enrique hasn't been dismissed by Paris Saint-Germain, has he? If he has, that's my number one, by the way. Then I'd probably say Tuchel. A lot of people are saying, Marty says it has to be Ruben Amorim. If he bought in Gyökeres over and potentially a few others, we might be repairable. Look, Amorim's obviously done a really good job at Sporting Lisbon, but we all know too well as football fans of a Premier League side how different that Portuguese league can be to the Premier League. Look at Darwin Núñez and the struggle he's had. There is an obvious step up. Amorim plays really, really good football. You can't question what he's achieved. It's a really fantastic job. I'd be more confident about Amorim coming in than I would be De Zerbi. If De Zerbi goes and wins Chelsea trophies, then I'll sit here and go, I was wrong, by the way. I absolutely will. The issue is right now, I want to see us go to another level. I really do. And I feel like De Zerbi doesn't instantly get us there. It's another process. Fuck the process, not trust the process is now what I'm thinking in my head. I'm absolutely fed up. Oh, and then if we're looking at managers that are available without trophies, that list was literally put in the chat a little bit earlier on. I'll see if I can find it. I should have started it. Bear with me, guys. I'm just going to try and find that message. So if someone's got the list of potential managers again, I'd appreciate it, because there was a list of like managers that are potentially linked with the Chelsea job that we absolutely have no idea who they are. I've got
a small list here, Dan, but it's not massive.
You read it out.
Roberto De Zerbi 5-2.
Oh, you got the odds.
Bastian Hoeneß 6-1.
That's it. Hoeneß. Yeah.
Kieran McKenna 7-1. Thomas Tuchel 7-1. Hansi Flick 10-1. That's as far as my list goes.
Hoeneß is the Stuttgart manager that has. Is that it? Hoeneß,
yeah.
Okay, so 42, young manager, playing career based in.
Wait, shout out Mickey on TikTok. Can you imagine Southgate? Mickey, if Southgate came to Chelsea, then I'll eat my left hand.
Yeah, like that can't happen. I honestly feel like it won't. But the other thing here to remember, right, and this is what will be really disappointing, is the board kind of did this with the World Cup a little bit before in terms of players. And because of their inexperience and knowledge around football, they used that tournament as a marketing strategy to put eyes on the football club. And they did it with Enzo. Enzo was obviously the best player, best young player at the World Cup, along with a couple of others. But he ultimately was in real, like a lot of limelight was on Enzo. They paid way over the odds for that player, because they knew that would get people talking about Chelsea Football Club. ultimately, we're still looking for that Enzo Fernandez that everyone saw at the World Cup to appear in a Chelsea shirt consistently. There's been moments, but it's not been consistent enough, albeit a pretty poor injury as well has kind of hindered him. But the issue I've got now is, do they do the same with a manager? Does the guy who win the Euros get the job or something like that, and just put eyes on the club and everyone talking? And that sort of would strike me as a ownership and a board that wouldn't have much idea what they're doing apart from trying to get media attention on the club to generate more money. That would worry me. Yeah, people are saying the Girona manager as well is apparently good odds as well. Alan says Big Sam's just been spotted on Fulham Broadway. I hope he was walking out of Nando's, mate, and not towards Stamford Bridge. Oh my gosh, that wouldn't happen. Let's be real. My concern is where this goes, though. Absolutely. I think Eddie Cooper says Southgate isn't proven. I think that's the issue, though, isn't it? Is that the likelihood is that we're going to get a manager in who isn't proven. I think that's the issue. That's what it's looking like for me. Does anyone else agree with that? Guys on TikTok, by the way, we've just hit 10K likes. Numbers have been unreal this stream. The record is 17K if you want to try and break it. Appreciate you guys so much. We're on the road to 2,500 followers on TikTok, and we are now on the road to 3,000 on YouTube after smashing that today. Appreciate everyone jumping in, having their thoughts about this managerial situation and ownership situation now at Chelsea Football Club. I'm obviously here chatting with Isaac from Izzy Talks. The link is in the description on the YouTube channel. Make sure to hit him up, follow him if you like what he's got to say about Chelsea Football Club and you want to see more from him. He's got a big season and summer ahead of him now with a huge managerial vacancy appearing at Chelsea Football Club. Who knows how quickly this is going to be addressed? That's the issue. I don't want to see this dragged out for a long period of time. I can't believe we're doing this again this summer. And ultimately, if Pochettino's left, right, this board is all over the place unless they've got people lined up. If they go and hire McKenna, it's a spur of the moment thing. If they hire De Zerbi, it's a spur of the moment thing. If they hire the guy from Stuttgart, it's a spur of the moment thing. If they hire someone that's been thought out and well processed and a good judge of character, achievements, fit of the club, fit of the model, and it all just slots in nicely and we go and it works and we move onwards and the playing style suits the players that have been bought for the club, fair enough. But for me, I don't see that happening. I think that is dreamland. What's important to remember as well is the way this squad of players has been assembled, there is absolutely, for me, no clear and obvious way or style of football this board wants us to play in, apart from what Todd Bowley said, we get it out from the back or something like that, he said in an interview. And what does that mean? Because 90% of teams play out from the back now. That's not a style of football. That's just a very simple approach to start your build-up. It's absolutely not a style of football. Alan says it's got Brighton DNA written all over the shit show. Alan, mate, I'll be honest with you, yeah. I almost don't think Brighton... I'll be honest. I don't think there is a club on the scale of Chelsea Football Club that is currently being run as poorly as Chelsea Football Club. I just don't think there is. I think this is the biggest mismanagement of a huge business sporting entity in years. In absolutely years. And I'm telling you, absolutely, that this ownership is one bad decision away from protests, right? Maybe not riots, but definitely a split between the fans and the board. Because I think...
Go in here, Dan.
Huh? Go on.
21st of May, today, at 7:53 this morning, published on the Sun News, was there's still every chance that Poch can stay, but any lack of alignment and consensus of the detail of how Chelsea attack next term the change may not be off the table. It claims that Ruben Amorim and Kieran McKenna are waiting in the sidelines. So
for me, you take Amorim all day on that one.
Apparently that's the top two. I did also see on here as well that Mourinho and I don't think it's going to happen. But at 16:43 on the 21st of May, 2024, Mourinho is close to sealing a deal to return to football after 4 months unemployed.
There's
However,
no
that
way
is
he comes
as
back.
the director of Saudi.
Oh, really? Right. Well,
Apparently
that would
so.
make sense for me because Mourinho's always been about the money as well, hasn't he? In a sense, as well as being a top manager, there's absolutely no doubt about it that he's kind of manipulated some of his exits. Connor was saying that Tuchel got sacked for a few reasons. He didn't have a say on transfers. He mutually agreed to leave Bayern for same reasons. I would love him back, but it wouldn't be any different. I kind of agree. I just think that if Tuchel comes back, someone's got to budge. You know, the board aren't going to budge, and Tuchel, I don't think, is going to budge. And if Tuchel budges, fair play, but do not throw your toys out the pram, and it might be a little bit different. But look, I do remember Tuchel stating, quite honestly, that he didn't want any involvement in transfers, like to an extent. He wants to just coach the team. And maybe right now he can look at this model and go, yeah, I could probably do something there. But I want people to remember that things weren't rosy between Tuchel and this board, and things weren't great in terms of the football. However, it was better than a lot of what we've seen post Thomas Tuchel as well. But
it's been better than the points he'd got up until he was sacked were higher than both Potter and Pochettino in both of their first starts up until the same amount of games, I believe. I'm sure I read that stat somewhere.
Because we were probably
we played like 10 games and got however many points.
Right.
But both replacements had done 10 games and not quite got as many. So
Asbo says on TikTok, how could you want a manager with little to no say in the transfers, though? Asbo, you'd probably be surprised, but a lot of football clubs run in that way now. A lot of so-called managers, are just coaches. They're not managers in the sense that Ferguson had an involvement in transfers. I would say even Pep Guardiola might have a slight involvement in transfers, but he stated yesterday in an interview that this ownership and board and the City Group give me these fantastic players. That's stating that they give him the players. He's not choosing the players. It's very rare nowadays that a manager would absolutely focus on player recruitment as well. Near enough every ownership has installed directors and sporting directors and directors of football and recruitment people to make sure that their sole focus is on recruitment of players that fit the system. They have all the stats, all the data. It absolutely doesn't work that way as much anymore. It just absolutely doesn't. I get that, but you want Todd having the final say. I can understand if Mourinho was still there. Look, I don't think Todd has the final say in a way to do with football anymore. I think him, Egbali, Wiss, they all absolutely believe and trust in Whit Stanley and Lawrence Stewart. And I now firmly believe that might be our biggest issue, because that they don't strike me as two people that I would be backing to be serial winners. And I think you have to remember that there's a reason Vivell left. Vivell wanted out because he saw this mess and he saw that his opinion wasn't being listened to. Don't forget, this is the guy that wanted Nagelsmann and signed and was heavily involved in the deal for Nkunku. And look at that. That is the one player that was ultimately absolutely at the top level when we signed him. Come off the back of like a 40-goal season, I think, when that deal was probably getting done. And now look, since then, how many players have we signed off of like at the top level? But ultimately, this is where I think if Manchester United are going to act as well, by the way, they need to be smart. That if they want a manager, they've got to be careful now, but they could also just go and snap up Pochettino. Or if they are slow, Chelsea could get the manager that Manchester United want, by the way. So they now got to be concerned a little bit, I think. I cannot remember the account, but I did see exclusive last Wednesday, Thursday saying that Poch would walk. I didn't take it seriously. I think that there was every possibility that Poch could walk. He said it in the press conference that he wasn't happy, and then literally the next day he repeated those words in another press conference. And then, like Isaac was saying when he first jumped on, there was another interview where he said a couple of things. And then he said the thing the other day where it's not my squad, it's Chelsea's squad. And it's just like, if you add all them things together, he said about the coaching staff not being happy and that he could leave. Yeah, he absolutely could. And that might well be what's happened. But I honestly, I don't know where Chelsea stand right now. Isaac, have you got anything else you want to add to it in terms of thoughts about the situation?
Can we get new owners instead of a new manager? Is that allowed?
We might have another 8 years, mate. But we literally might. Maybe longer.
I just want to say, I think, I think we've covered all bases, really. I really hope that all I can do is hope right now that we are smart about how we play this. Let's not just go and sign the next person who we think is there. Like, I know we need a pre-season and stuff like that, but let's not forget we got the Euros coming up, and I'll be really annoyed, mate, if we go and get De Zerbi early doors. And I honestly, mark my words, you heard me say earlier, if he comes in, we're going to have exactly the same, if not worse, season than when we signed Potter. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I think you're bang on, by the way. I think that's so important right now, is that if things go wrong next season and they go for a manager that would be considered subpar to even Pochettino, then if things go wrong and we're sat at mid-table or we're outside Europe again, when we should have been challenging for top 4, I think, under Pochettino next season, realistically, I think that's where we were aiming on the form that we finished the season in. If we're subpar, they will have so much to answer for. And this is what I mean. They are this is their move. This is their final move before checkmate comes, if you know what I mean, between them and the fans. That if they get this one wrong, I don't see it recovering. I just don't. Because it'll be like, why did you sack Tuchel? Why did you employ Potter? Why did, when you sack him and give us a chance to turn things around, did you hire Lampard? Why then did you hire Pochettino as a stepping stone and then employ someone to go backwards? Because if we talk about Pochettino and just as a stepping stone to stabilize the ship and advance us, he got us a 20-point improvement in points. He moved us to 6th in the Premier League. And ultimately, in one season, he's halved our league position, hasn't he? He's moved us from like 12th to 6th. So he's ultimately been a stepping stone. And if that's all he is, fine. And he got us to a couple of Wembley runs, and it kind of reminded the players what it's like, that Chelsea should be doing that. And it was far, if you actually think about it, 6th and a couple of trips to Wembley feels a little bit more normal, doesn't it, than last season? And it makes last season appear way more like a blip, right? But then if they go backwards from now, it's such a mess. They have to go forwards. And I think that's what me and Isaac are really trying to like absolutely state here, is that if they go with De Zerbi, like all these hipsters want, they want this nice fancy football with no evidence to suggest success. Believe me, they'll absolutely have it all the questions will be coming their way. Like, at what point, and I was saying this on Saeed's channel, because Saeed wants De Zerbi to come into Manchester United and play nice football. I was like, Saeed, if you get nice football but no results, are you happy with that? And he said to me, yes. And I'll be honest with you, as a Chelsea fan, I'm not. Because I've seen us win with shite football, and I've been over the moon at the end of the season. Over the moon. I couldn't care how we won games. It was that we were winning. And I literally didn't mind that. And there were times when we spent the first half of the season playing really nice football, and then the second half, under Mourinho, I remember, we'd switch on, we'd win games 1-0, 2-0, 2-1s, and that was it. Limit the amount of goals conceded, go and win the league. But we've got ourselves in the position to win the league in the first half of the season by playing really, really good football. Conor Hendry, watch Bowley now. He'll let Gallagher go get De Zerbi, sign Gilmour back. Oh my gosh, I don't know if Gilmour happened. Talks to Thomas Frank, that would be disastrous for me as well. Absolutely.
Dan, mate, if you could have one pick, who is it? Right here, right now.
I said Tuchel. I said Tuchel from the get-go of this stream, and I'd probably stick with that. I did say, though, if Luis Enrique was available, that's who I'd take.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I would. I think we should have hired Luis Enrique last summer. I feel like we messed up a little bit there. I just think they're sort of jumping the gun a little bit, to be honest with you, with that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't see Luis Enrique being available. That's what I'm trying to say there. And I think if I look at the list of managers that are available, it's on that list. It's Tuchel for me. It just is. But I don't see it being a smooth working relationship unless they've ironed things out. You know, and they know what didn't work first time round. Do they go? This is what needs to work second time round. Yeah. Amorim release clause, is that the rumor? Is it Thames? Copy of Brighton club model, hire sporting directors that think football works like fifth career mode. But on the bright side, a miner from Brazil who will be named over 2040 for. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Do you know what? It's true though, isn't it? And don't get me wrong, I heard that they had a separate sort of model for the youth recruitment. So someone like him, but apparently he's going to be coming in as a first team player. We've signed so many players in the same position. Kendry Paez, a couple of others as well. This is what I mean. There's no clear structure to what we're trying to do as a football club right now. And I want to hear what the likes of Gary Neville have to say about this, because he questioned this board from the get-go, saying, I wouldn't want it. They're going to be messy, blah, blah, blah. And I actually felt like, do you know what? They're giving Poch a chance here, and they might have learnt their lesson. And unless Pochettino's walked and they're being stubborn, and if they've dismissed Pochettino, oh my gosh. And if Poch has walked, then what does it say about them? We've pretty much said all we kind of have to say on it, to be honest, I think, with you. A lot of it now is just going to be speculation. Do you agree, Eyes?
100%, mate. 100%.
Yeah,
Let's see how the next few days pan out. Let's see if it's done and dusted. They make this early decision and get De Zerbi in by the end of the week. Or do we sit and wait? And I think if De Zerbi's not in by the end of the week, we have to think about, is that actually going to happen then? Because why would they wait? If this was all set up, why would they bother waiting, mate?
Yeah, I agree with you, right? If it's going to be De Zerbi, it feels like it could happen so quickly because of how quickly these sort of events have lined up. People are saying here I've been harsh on Poch, but I absolutely don't think I have. I think I've actually been really fair. I think at points he's not been good enough, and I think I've given him credit when it's been due. Ultimately, he's not the Chelsea manager now, so I don't really care what you have to say on that. Because he isn't the Chelsea manager. How I felt about Pochettino doesn't matter anymore, because ultimately he isn't anything to do with Chelsea Football Club anymore. And I think it will be remembered as a really sort of dismal period for Chelsea Football Club, that they hired a manager from Spurs, but we'll be thankful that he got us back to Europe. And I think that's it. I don't think there's anything exciting. I'm not going to remember those League Cup final and the FA Cup semi-final, because quite frankly, I've got memories in my head of better moments at Wembley with managers and squads I way preferred. They're not going to stick in my memory as amazing moments, because, to be honest with you, they've been frequent for Chelsea Football Club, even when we've not been as good as we've been in recent years. Me and Isaac will obviously be here to potentially chat about anything going on and see how this situation develops. Like I said, if you haven't already, make sure to smash the likes on TikTok. Do the same on YouTube. Let's try and get 30 to 50 likes. Somewhere in that range would be absolutely fantastic today. The viewership's been solid. The comments that have been coming in throughout have been absolutely fantastic. And make sure to go and subscribe to Izzy Talks. That's Isaac, who's chatting now with me on the YouTube channel. Subscribe to this channel. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers as well. And we're running things over on the 1905 a little bit as well now. So check that out if you haven't already, on YouTube, Twitter, on all the socials. That's it. That's pretty much all we've got to say on the matter today. Pochettino has left Chelsea Football Club. Eyes, anything else to say?
No, you've summed it up there, mate. It's all done and dusted. Thanks for having me on. Anyone out there, make sure to like the video, subscribe to all of Dan's channels as well. We've got a lot to talk about over the next few weeks now. So if you want the content, guys, drop the subscribe, drop the likes, get involved.
Yeah, where can they find you? Just remind them, Eyes. I've put it in the description, but just remind them.
At Easy Talks, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. A bit quiet at the minute, but watch this space.
Yeah, definitely do so. Yeah, pleasure, guys. Thank you very much. Cheers for tuning in. And Let me know your thoughts on Twitter and things like that. If you've got anything else you want to say whilst I'm not live, I love the conversation. I'll speak to you in a bit.
Cheers.